The GRE is a test required for admission to many U.S. graduate schools. Student scores on the quantitative portion of the GRE follow a normal distribution with mean 150 and standard deviation 8.8. An admissions officer at a large graduate school believes the mean is less than 150. Determine the null and alternative hypotheses. So, first thing we do is write out our statements, and even though the problem doesn't ask for us to determine if it's left-tailed, right-tailed, or two-tailed, we're going to write that down as well. So, we write down our null hypothesis as H sub 0, so a little subscript there. You may also hear that pronounced H null. And then we write colons, and the next thing we do is write down our parameter. So in this case, what are we testing? So if we go back and read through this, it says that the admissions officer at a large graduate school believes the mean is less than 150. So our parameter that we're testing is the mean. So we have to remember our symbols there. So the mean is mu. So the next thing we do is write down our parameter that we're testing, and then for the purposes of this course, all you're going to do is your null hypothesis is always going to be equal to, so H sub 0 colons your parameter you're testing equal, and then that value. So you're always going to have the same number in your null and alternative hypothesis, or hypotheses. And then for your alternative, you're going to use H sub 1, and some places use H sub A to represent the alternative hypothesis. And then again, your parameter that you're testing, and then we're going to have the same number there. And then he believes the mean is less than 150, so less than. So that's going to give us our symbol there. So notice they're that same form there. So we're looking at three different parameters. So either the mean, which is mu, p, which is proportion, or sigma, which is the standard deviation. So we'll look at those in 10.1. But we're only actually going to go through and perform hypothesis testing on just the mean and the proportion. So then we have three different types of tests. We have left-tailed, right-tailed, and two-tailed. So we have a left-tailed test when our alternative is less than. We have a right-tailed when our alternative is greater than. And then we have a two-tailed test when our alternative is not equal to. So they'll always kind of match up the same. So you'll have your symbol that represents whether it's the null or the alternative, your colon, and then your parameter you're testing. The null for purposes of this course and this chapter is always going to be equal to, and then whatever your alternative is, that symbol is going to be different. So one of these three symbols, and then the number will always be the same in your hypotheses. So part B asked us to explain what it would mean to make a type 1 error. So type 1 error is when we reject the null, but the null is true. Okay. So I would recommend writing these down as you're going through and learning type 1, type 2. Write it down every single time you're working with it. Write down your conditions. Those are things you want to set to memorizing so that you're prepared for your test and your final there. So now that I've wrote that down, so what would that mean? So in this case, that would mean the mean is 150. So that's our null hypothesis, but the null hypothesis is rejected. Right? So we reject the null, but it's actually true. So now we want to explain what it would mean to make a type 2 error. So a type 2 is when we do not reject. I apologize, my dog is barking in the background, but a type 2 error is when we do not reject the null hypothesis, but the alternative is true. So in this case, that would mean that the mean is less than 150, but the null hypothesis is not rejected. Right. So again, you want to make sure that as you go through and learn these, you're writing down what a type 1 error is. You reject the null, but the null is true. And then what a type 2 error is, you do not reject the null, but the alternative is true. So get used to writing those down to kind of refresh your memory on what they are as you go through these problems.